What's up, everyone? It's your man, Will, and you're listening to American Diner Stories, the podcast. And I'm here today with...
Producer Glenn.
Hey, what's up, Producer Glenn?
How you doing, Big W? Everything good?
Oh, it's all good. It's all gravy, baby. I want to actually... we have a really exciting podcast, but before we get to that, we really need to give an update on the documentary and the behind the scenes.
Yes. Well, it's a new year, as you know. It's
Yep.
a new year, and it's going to be a new podcast. We've been doing some interesting things. We've been seeing different places, reviews.
2020 is our year.
Yes, it is.
So for the next 2 months, that would be January and February of 2020, we're producing 2 podcasts a month.
Absolutely.
3 videos.
3 videos.
Because ultimately this is a documentary, and we're knocking on the door of Netflix and Amazon because we're going to get our documentary there.
I can't wait to arrive.
Yeah, definitely.
But, and I had an interesting breakfast, a luncheon at a Hispanic business. I was invited up, and I got to speak to about 100 people and tell them about our documentary and how it goes into immigration. And because I said you can't talk about diners without talking about immigration, or the effects of immigrants in diners. And big part of that history is Hispanics in the last 20 years. So it was interesting. It was good. It's all good.
That's awesome. And I saw the pictures you sent. We put it out on our social media. Please, everyone, follow us. It's American Diner Stories on Instagram. And we don't have a Facebook because I think we're cooler than that.
Yeah, we're cooler than that.
But we do have a YouTube channel, and it's under American Diner Stories.
Absolutely.
And we need you to follow and like. That's our version of getting a tip. You would tip the server. So we are the server. Please tip us by liking and sharing with your family and friends.
Yeah, an internet tip. Pretty cool.
An internet tip. That's awesome. Okay, why don't we bring on our guest?
Well, this is Mr. Dane DeRosa, my old friend from the Brookside Diner, who I had the pleasure of serving, he and his wife Rachel, for many years at the Brookside Diner. And then when John brought me down to East Hanover, they came with us. I knew that he had some diner experience in his family, but I had no idea that this man is a walking treasure trove of New Jersey diner history. And an honor.
Hello, Bill. Hello, Glenn. Good to be here with you. I'm enjoying it. And I'm glad that due to my mother's father and my grandfather, that's who provided me with whatever knowledge I have. So
that's awesome.
Thanks for asking me.
What's your grandfather's name?
John Albrecht.
And where's he from? Where did he grow up?
He grew up and was born in Germany.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about that, he had a very big family, and when he was 11 years old, he went up to his parents and says, "Listen, I know that this is a very tough situation to keep us all fed and clothed and everything." So at 11, he told his parents that I'm going to make it easier for you. And by that, he then said to them, I'm going to leave home. You will not have to worry about taking care of me. You can take care of the rest of the family. I'm going to go and take care of myself, and I'm going to go down to the shipyards and the harbor, and I'm going to find a ship that needs a cabin boy, and that's what I'm going to do.
Wow.
For now.
That's an awesome... Now, that's when he was in Germany or in the
Germany.
States?
That's when he was still in Germany. He was an 11-year-old child.
It seems to be a common thread with diner people. They become merchant marines, and they travel the world.
Well, back then you had to cross the sea to get here, so...
Right.
That's true.
But he didn't know... But John Albrecht didn't know that when he said that. Like when he told... I mean, he was just 11 years old. My God. What determination.
Yeah.
That's willpower. I mean, that's headstrong.
That's more than myself or my generation.
That's almost unfathomable to send an 11-year-old. Like, I'm just going to do my thing and go out. No one would send their child out at 11.
No, but it was a different time. Like, my grandfather came here at 13 years old. It was a different time, and they had a definitely different work ethic and a different core. They knew who they were, and I got my values. I know what to do.
Yeah. All right, so tell us more, because his story is like all the other immigrant stories. We want to hear it. We want to soak it up like a sponge.
After he was a cabin boy for a while, the captain of the ship said, "You know, my main chef, my main cook, he is about to leave the ship. He doesn't want to be here. So I'm promoting you from cabin boy to cook."
Cool. So that's where he learned his craft.
That's where he learned
his
that's
trade.
Where he first started to learn how to cook and make food. Yes.
Wow. And so it was an apprenticeship. He was on the ship.
Yes.
But I mean, when I said he was an apprenticeship, and how he learned how to cook. He didn't go to school to learn how to cook. He learned the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
He had
Self-taught. Yes.
Self-taught.
Yes.
And maybe an older guy by his side screaming in his ear that, cut it this way, cut it that way, do it this way, do it that way.
So what was his journey? He's on the ship. How long was he on the ship for?
He had to be on that ship for quite a number of years, and he transferred from ship to ship,
Mm-hmm.
But one of the stories he told me, this is just insane to me, was on one of these ships. First of all, they were sailing ships at the time. They weren't. When my grandfather they were sailing ships. They weren't.
Yeah,
wow.
They
weren't
mast.
steam driven with masts. Yes, with sails.
Wow.
And on one of these sailing ships, he and the crew got shipwrecked or ran aground. While they were aground, before they were discovered or rescued by passing ships and stuff like that, they were shipwrecked for 30 days. And my grandfather tells the story. While they were shipwrecked, of course, after 30 days, they ran out of food. So they were,
Then a forage.
They were foraging and right. But even more than that, he said they were and could find very little food, even though they had to fish in the sea, of course, and stuff like that. But he said they looked up, and some of his shipmates and everything, and they'd been there so long that buzzards were circling over their heads.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
And talking about how tough he and all his fellow shipmates were, he says, some of the older men, I don't know what my grandfather's age, but he must have been in his late teens by then, or maybe 20, but some of the older men that were part of the crew, they had rifles and some weapons on board.
Okay.
So what some of his older, more mature crew did, they went down below decks, and they got their guns, they came back up on deck, and they shot the buzzards.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And ate them for food till they could be rescued.
I love that story.
You thought you were going to eat
That's
us?
tougher and more ingenious than I could have even thought of. So,
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I'm just saying.
You thought you were going to eat us? We're going to eat you.
Survival of the fittest.
There we go.
What year
There we
was
are,
that?
man.
Do you remember what year that this all happened?
I'm only going to speculate on this.
That's fine.
Because I have a thing, and I got emotional as anybody would yesterday. But maybe this was that year. I don't know. I have a paperweight at home that my grandfather made, and it's a paperweight, and in the center of it is a propeller. There was a date in the knob on the propeller, and that date in the propeller says 1909.
Wow.
1909.
1909.
Wow, that's great.
And your grandfather, what year was he born? You
1890.
1890.
He was born.
Wow. So if he was in his teens, that puts him like 1917, 1918. Where the story where they're shipwrecked, I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I'm thinking 1909 when he made that propeller. If he was
I mean,
born
1907. I said 1990. I mean, 1906, 1905.
Yeah, that makes him about 19 when he was making that paperweight. Right.
So, but I mean, the shipwreck. If he was teens, that's like 1905. It's a story. That's older than my grandfather. 1905. This is wild.
That's pretty old. It's older than my great grandfather.
Yeah, ship with just sails.
Where did he get shipwrecked? The Atlantic, the Pacific, Caribbean?
In the Atlantic somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
In the Atlantic somewhere.
Yeah. The Atlantic's a pretty big ocean. It could be.
There's room.
There's room. Yes. Yeah.
So after they get rescued
Right.
and he comes to America. What year does he come into America?
I want to say that he probably came before he met my grandmother in 1920. Originally I thought that's when, but as I'm saying it, well, you might think it was earlier because, as I say, being that he was on the oil tanker, as I think about it now, he probably had an apartment in New York City.
Okay.
He met my grandmother in New York City, but he had that apartment even before he met her, and it would make sense to me because if he was going to sea every couple of weeks or couple of months and stuff, why would he have a house and why would he settle down? He wouldn't. It wouldn't make sense. He's not even in the country. He's out of the country.
Yeah, I got
in the middle of the ocean somewhere.
What was his first experience with cooking on land?
After he finally settled down and bought a home and everything and stopped going to sea, he started a career as a painter. As he was on one of his jobs with a painter, he was up on the roof. And
So a house painter.
A house painter,
Okay.
right. and he fell off the roof.
Oof.
And he broke bones in his back and everything, and he had to recuperate for quite a while. But as he was recuperating, he says, well, I'm not going to stay a painter or go back to that job. I says, my back is killing me.
I won't be doing that again.
I'm not even going to try that again. Exactly. And that's when he decided, I'm going to go and try my hand in the food business.
Okay.
Because he'd been a cook for decades.
I would say, I know my mother was born, his daughter was born in 1925, so I want to say that he probably did that in the early 30s, maybe 31 or 32.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
What was the first diner he ever worked in?
The first diner he ever put in was the Boonton Diner.
Okay.
Oh.
There was a diner in Boonton. And now the site is no longer, I had mentioned this to Glenn when we were here earlier, but it's not a diner anymore. They extended it into additional apartment dwellings.
Okay.
So it's part of an apartment complex now where the diner used to be in Boonton.
Mm.
Right.
And the next one was the Whippany Diner, or then the Whippany Grill, or was the next one the Silver Dollars?
The next one had to be the Silver Dollar because I believe the Whippany Grill came after the Silver Dollar.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And
Right.
now it mentioned in the obituary that you brought us
Yes.
that there's a Livingston Diner and Morris Plains. I mean, he founded a lot of diners.
I believe where the Morris Plains is, there's still a diner in Livingston, and I don't know if that's the same property. As far as I can tell, I guess it probably is.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
The diner that was in Morris Plains, I was trying to that, and I believe now what's on that lot is the place. I don't know if you guys. It's not a diner, but it's called Tiff's, and
I've
they
seen it.
advertise on it.
I've never been in it,
It's
but
a
I've
bar
seen
and
it.
a grill,
Yeah.
but I believe that's the lot
Okay.
where his Morris Plains diner was.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cool. And it's according to they were all called Livingston Diner, Morris Plains Diner, and the Boonton Diner.
Right.
But the
Right.
special name that he gave was the Silver Dollar in Ledgewood. He didn't
Yeah.
call it the Ledgewood Diner; he called it the Silver Dollar. That's
Well, he
cool.
also named the. You're right about the Silver Diner. In addition, he gave the name to the Arrow Diner too.
Really
He picked the name, even though.
Now he founded the Arrow Diner, and your parents took it over at a later date. Am I right, or am I wrong about that?
No, he didn't run. He didn't run that diner very long, and I'm smiling about this because, as I mentioned, the year 1950, he opened that in 1950, and I want to say that he probably didn't run that diner for more than 6 months after he got it up and open because what he decided was his daughter had a grandson for him in 1950 as well. He put the diner up.
Yeah.
So he says, you know what? I'm going to turn the diner over to my daughter and her husband, and I'm out of here. I'm retired now.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that puts him at 60 years old. He was still going strong at 60 years old, founding diners and working it. Wow.
Yeah. Now you worked at the Arrow Diner, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I
could
did.
you give us a little
Absolutely.
description of how it was when you worked there?
Our diner was definitely the primary group of customers were actually truck drivers, which is fine. They were truck drivers who would be on their way, to Pennsylvania or even to California, and they would stop in, and they were the main bulk of our business and provided our income, their patronage. And
now it was located on this very road, right? But up for it was on 46.
Arrow Diners Route 46 in Denville.
Denville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, it's called the West Side now.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Arrow Diner was that was most memorable to me as in 1966, I worked my first job there, and my first job was as a dishwasher. And what was most memorable for me, for lack of a better word, was the sink to wash the dishes in was underneath the counter. Where the bar stools were.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So, two things. We're looking at each other's faces, eye to eye type of thing.
Yeah.
I would have to get down on my knees to wash the dishes that were in the sink.
Wow.
As I was staring up or almost at the customers sitting at the counter, and they're looking at me washing the dishes
That's awesome.
on my knees.
Wow.
my God, that's awesome. So it's a Silk City Diner, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
And do you remember what year it was built?
I'm not sure, but I'm speculating.
Okay.
That it was 1950 or
Well,
maybe the year before. But I mean,
because your grandpa took it over 49.50 around there.
he brought
right?
the property and everything. Yes, at
Oh.
49 or 50.
But there was no diner on it.
There was nothing on the site.
he
It was
per-
just
Yeah,
a
it's
vacant.
got to be the
right.
Gotcha.
49.50.
You know,
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we can definitely fact check that because
Yeah.
we can look it up. So tell me more about the. See, I'm intrigued by the interior part
Yes.
because viewers or audio listeners, they weren't there, but you were. So tell us, give us a description.
Well, my favorite. Well, a lot of my favorite was the kitchen in the back. Was
Okay.
a nice big full-length kitchen and everything.
Okay.
And it had a ovens back there, and
Okay.
stoves
Okay.
and burners and stuff. Of course, we had a steam table out front,
Okay.
Yeah.
and
Did they bake pies and stuff like that? Did they,
They
in-house
didn't-
baking? Or
they
bought
didn't-
them?
They bought their
Okay.
pies.
Okay.
They bought their,
Okay.
but I want to say also that the things that I remember about the diner, and this is my father, for entertainment, he had put a pinball machine in the diner, and he
Okay.
put it in the one back corner. He had a friend that used to come into the diner, and they played golf together, and they did. And my father and son doesn't fall far from the tree, being little pranksters and stuff like that. My father's friend was playing on the pinball machine. And while he was playing on the pinball machine and so into it, like we all do, he was so into it, not paying attention to what's going on around him, my father had like a little 1-inch firecracker.
You told me this
And he
story.
lit the firecracker and he threw it behind his friend onto the floor, and it went off, and his friend, like the Halloween cat. You've seen
Yeah.
the Halloween cat? His friend jumped like a Halloween.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Oh my God. It sounds like your father was very like jokester. Was your father or your grandfather? Did,
His
the
father. His father did that.
He
His-
sounds
my
like he was a little
father.
bit of a jokester. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
He had me for years to show him how gullible I am. And my mother, too. We're gullible. But my father's a city boy. And but I'm just they have a different way, especially when
Yeah.
we're living in the country. And with his... he used to... And I believed him for years till he said it wasn't true. And my mother probably knew it before me, but I believed it probably till I want to say, till I graduated high school. And he used to tell me, and he would say to me, son, I'm the most respectful, as a matter of fact, he says, when I was growing up, you know, my parents took me to church, but this is what, and I believed him. I shouldn't have believed him. He told me, you know what, I used to be an altar boy. I believed him. It wasn't true.
That's so good. Inside the diner, how many stools do you remember?
I want to say about 6 on each side.
Okay, so
it was split. It was split down the middle.
Center, so yeah.
so when was it like you walked in the center, the doorway was in the center of the diner?
Yes. Yeah.
So
The
then-
vestibule and everything were in the center of the diner. Right?
Now, on the one side was the flat grill, like the egg grill, flat grill, where you make the grilled cheeses, and was that there?
Yeah, the short order was out
Yeah.
in front,
Yeah.
behind the right-hand side
and
of
that
the diner,
and that
behind
cook
the
actually
course behind the
served the customers that sat on that side, right?
Yeah, or both sides. But
Both
they
sides.
made
Yeah.
the orders, and
Yeah.
of course,
Hmm.
you could. While the short order cook was making all this, you could be sitting there and you sit at the counter and see everything
Going on.
going on. That's it.
Now, did they also have a waitress working on the other side sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had the waitress on one side,
Yeah.
the short order grill cook.
Yeah.
On the other.
The reason why,
Yeah.
because that's how Papu, that's how
Yeah.
his diner was
Yeah.
set up.
Yeah.
That the guy working the floor also served the customers and got tips
Mhm.
Yeah.
if they sat on that side, and then you had a waitress on the other side, and it took care of the other side of the counter in the booths,
Yeah.
and that's how she made her tips.
I think our listeners and the documentary, people will love this because they haven't experienced it. Diners aren't like this anymore.
No,
And that's why this showmanship
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah.
If your dad did your dad work the flat grill, or or whoever worked the flat grill? Your grandfather definitely worked the flat grill, right? You know, on the outside, he did. Some
Yeah, for the
cooking.
few months he was
Yeah.
there, yes.
Yeah.
Or did he have like a sense of showmanship, flair? Like, you know, I never saw this, but on my grandfather, I used to have pictures of guys flipping eggs in the air and catching them with the pan.
My grandfather wasn't so much for the short order, but when you talk about flair, his flair was coming from back in the kitchen
Yeah.
with a roasting pan and showing off his roast. That's where my grandfather liked to show his flair.
Yeah. So he was a chef.
Yes.
He wasn't the shorter guy. He was the chef.
Yeah.
And my Babu had worked
Yeah.
the shorter. So he was the chef.
It makes a lot of sense because your grandfather was on a ship and they fed the masses,
Those
so
flat masses,
that's
yeah.
how you feed
Yeah.
roast,
Yeah.
big meals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Did the grill man, who it wasn't your father, your grandfather, but whoever it was, did he have a sense of showmanship, or to give a little show to the customers, or no?
Well, our short order cook was, for lack of a better term, colorful. I don't want to say showman, but colorful in the respect that she was a woman.
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Really
and she came from the South.
Okay.
Cool. Okay.
And even though she was living up here in the North, coming from the South when she was working, she had that Southern attitude and that Southern.
Yes.
She let the customers know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
I
it.
said, I'll make your A's for you, but you're going to have to listen to me vent while I'm doing it.
So she basically interacted with them,
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
to
Yes,
them,
Yeah.
absolutely.
engaging the
Absolutely.
customer. That's
Yeah.
we miss that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you get that still with food trucks because you can still interact with the person in the window.
Well, you get that now with servers. Like I used to be
Yeah, totally.
like that. Like it wasn't showmanship, but you learning how to speak to customers, engaging customer in conversation. Dane and I and his wife Rachel, we would talk about 8 million subjects when they would come in, and that's called being hospitable, hospitality.
Yes.
So
No, it's true.
I wouldn't call it. You're right. It's not. I don't know if I'd call myself colorful. But there's just a certain hospitality aspect to doing it, and so it's present today. Not with the cooking staff, but more of the front. Like John.
Yes.
John has that presence. He has. It's not showmanship, but that whatever she had. John has it in spades. So it's
Well, as
present.
you said earlier, Glenn, John's thing, his biggest thing, and sometimes his only thing, is Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots and Tom Brady.
Are we talking about Yanni?
Yanni, yeah,
Okay.
Yanni.
Yeah, for everyone, John is Yanni.
Yanni.
Back
John
here
is
in the
Yanni.
center.
Yanni Yanni in English is John. So Dane knows him as John.
Yeah.
I
No, it's
I
okay.
know him as Yanni.
Just so the listeners know,
Yeah.
because we're carrying a story. We talk about him
Yeah.
frequently.
Yanni's yeah.
He's like a special guest star
Yes.
every podcast. So, and his love for Bill Belichick.
Bill Bellyache.
Yeah, Bill Belichick. And the Patriots.
Yes.
And Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Tom
He's never
Brady.
been a better quarterback, according to John,
I know.
to play the game.
So I have a Tom Brady story that I told John. I said, because I'm a Dolphins fan since '78.
Oof.
So
Rough.
we
This is a
so
rough
good.
year.
we
But-
butt heads a little
yeah.
bit, and I have to give Tom Brady a lot of respect. He has done
yes.
amazing. So I told Yanni, I said, look, my only time, if I want to go back in time, if I could go back in time, I would stop Tom Brady's parents from meeting. do no
Yeah.
harm,
Do not meet.
but
Yeah.
just don't procreate. And Yanni, without dropping beats, stop listening to the New York media.
Fake news. Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. Yeah. That's it.
So there. I'm sorry, Tom Brady. But so let's talk about.
So now his father had your parents had the Arrow Diner until 1966.
1968.
68.
So what's the next diner after that?
Yeah, after
You
your
did-
parents sold it, what happened? I never asked you that. What
yeah,
happened?
What happened?
Well, after they sold that, my mother, actually, she stayed in the food business.
Okay.
My father got completely out of the food business and got a civil service job and went to work for the town of Parsippany
Okay.
Okay.
in their water department.
Oh
Okay.
wow. So 9 to 5, he got out of the diner.
He
gig.
got out of the. My mother though
Enough
stayed a
weekends.
waitress,
Okay.
and even though it wasn't her own place, she went to work. It's down here on Route 10. Well, it's not this anymore, but what it was when she was working there till 1990 when she went to work in a Howard Johnson's
Really?
and stayed a waitress in
Yeah.
a Howard Johnson's.
I love
That's what my mother did.
I love
Good.
that. The Hojo's are still. It's a great
Yeah.
story. It's kind of diner-esque.
I haven't
Yeah.
been to a Hojo in like 40 years.
I don't know if there are any.
I don't. That's a good point. I
That's a
don't
good-
even know if there are any
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So she stayed in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she
as
stayed
a
in the
cop,
game.
yeah, good.
So so we have the Whippany Grill, right?
Yeah.
That was the
Yes.
first diner
Mm,
for your grandfather.
no.
I think the Silver Dollar was the first.
Silver
time
Dollar
I
was the
liked
first
So
it.
we have the Silver Dollar,
Followed by the Whippany.
followed
No.
by the Whippany.
Yeah. And then Boonton came. No, I thought Boonton was the first
Boonton
one.
is first. You're
Yeah,
right.
Boonton is the
You're
first
right.
one.
Boonton is
The Boonton
before the
Diner-
Silver Dollar, before anything.
Yeah.
Right.
The Boonton Diner, and then
Okay, then we have
after that, the Silver Dollar. After that, the Whippany Grill. And then there's two others that the Livingston Diner and the Morris Plains. You're not sure when they really were bought.
Those I'm not sure of. Yeah, particularly Morris. I'm not sure the purchase dates of those. No.
Yeah.
But I just remembered, and it just came into my mind when you're talking about. I was trying to think of it for days, and his name came back to me. My grandfather in that first diner,
Mm-hmm.
the Boonton Diner.
Yes.
He had a fellow businessman that he was, and my mother told me this story, and he says they always used to argue not about they were friendly rivals, let's say.
Okay.
Okay.
But they used to argue about their automobiles, and they both bought the same make. So, but of course, my grandfather's and Herman Smith was my grandfather's friend's name. But they'd argue and say, "Listen, my Studebaker's 100% better because I've got hill hold on mine and you don't."
Now,
Hill hold. I had to ask what is hill hold? It's with a clutch you don't know, but they had to explain it. I mean,
Hill
and I'm asking this, and they're telling me I'm like 13 years old.
wow.
I didn't know what that was.
So they would argue over the features.
Yes.
Right.
bragging rights. You know.
I have an emergency brake, which is hill hole.
So Bill and Glenn, that we actually had a few celebrities come into the Arrow Diner,
Okay.
Nice.
and they came in there while my father was working.
Night
Probably-
shift, right?
The night shift, yep. Late supper. And one of the people that came in with his agent, he wasn't even known by his stage name after he began. His agent came in and said, this guy's name is Anthony Benedetto, and he's going to be famous one day.
Okay.
And his agent was right, because he turned out to be, and my father told me, he turned out to be, after he got his stage name, it was Tony Bennett.
Wow.
Whoa.
He became, so Anthony Benedetto became Tony Bennett.
Wow.
And he sat on the end counter stool, and my father served him.
That's awesome.
And besides that, another famous celebrity that came in again at night while my father was working, not on my mother's shift, was the sidekick of Jackie Gleason, who was Norton, or as we know him, Art Carney.
Wow.
Carney. Wow.
Norton.
Norton.
I love that.
Hey, Norton.
Norton.
Oh my god. I just remember the pinball machine. Like he came out as a spaceman, and they like, he's a pinball machine.
I remember, too, like what we said of that one, but I remember another one when he was talking to Jackie Gleason, and they were just talking back of how, and when he says, and after I did this, Ralph, all the guys down in the sewer, they were green with envy. Only Art
yeah.
Carney.
Oh my god.
And there was is there another one that
The golf one.
Oh, yeah, the golf story for
Yeah.
Art
Yeah.
Carney, where he was teaching Jackie Gleason how to play golf.
Yeah.
And he says, go to the book, because this isn't working. So opens up the book, and he says to him, it says, the first thing you should do, Ralph, it says, you should address the ball.
address the ball?
And the first time Jackie Gleason says, what can that possibly mean? What is that? And he says, I don't know. That's what it says. It says, so he walks up to the ball. He tells him to get his stance, and Jackie Gleason is standing there And then Art Carney says to him as he's standing there, "Hello, ball."
I love that. That's so funny. Oh my God, that's when television was still pure.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
totally.
yes.
And then, did you say there was somebody else that came in?
There was a famous actress
Yes.
that came in that my mother would have loved to see, and her name was Anne Sheridan.
Nice.
Okay, we'll have to Google her because the name sounds familiar, but
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she was in, but I definitely know the
I
name.
can't
don't
remember
know.
that either.
Yeah.
But Anne Sheridan.
Yeah.
I'm sure your mom was
She must have
stoked.
been in, my mother was stoked because
Yeah.
she
Now-
saw her in a lot of things. She was stoked when she heard about it.
I may
Yes.
not be remembering this correctly, but you had told me, I think you had told me, that because the diner was on Route 46, that people would stop in there on their way to shows in the Poconos? Or-
Well,
is that
people would
correct?
go by, but the artists that I mentioned, Tony
Yeah.
Bennett and Art Carney, they had told my father while they were there and everything that when they were on their way to Pennsylvania
Oh, okay.
I see.
to do shows
Yeah, that goes
at
on.
the resorts and
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
That's Michael Gabriel says the diners in New Jersey because of everyone was going somewhere. They just happened to stop on the way there.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's true. Okay, so do we need any other questions? What
No.
other diners? Did we miss anything? This is your time to tell us.
We didn't miss anything. I mean, I'm still asking you questions myself about, in particular, like the 4 diners that he just mentioned by town. One of them is the diner that's up there in Livingston now. I don't know. I'm not sure, if that's where my grandfather had his diner when he had a diner in Livingston.
Ah,
Okay.
I need to
you have to
try
do a
to
little
find out
research.
and do some research
Like-
myself.
Doing this project with Big W and like from and I think I see this happening with you
Yeah.
that as I do this you think you knew everything, but
Yes.
you don't, because I never dug
Mm.
into it. You never dug into it, and as you do that, you start to learn about something you thought you knew everything about your whole life, and then you thought, wow,
yes.
I just knew
Or,
the scratch of it.
I think I thought I knew everything, or I thought I was told everything,
Yeah.
and now I'm finding
You're
no,
learning
you
more
weren't.
stuff. And one of the cool things,
No, you
when I
weren't.
was growing up, my grandfather would tell me that he had first. Now, see, when I was growing up, the diner world in the 70s was exclusively Greek. I mean, there was other elements in the kitchen, but the owners were Greek, and in my mind, it was a Greek industry. But he told me that he'd worked for the Germans.
Hmm.
But I didn't know any Germans who that was something I never saw. And then talking to you, it's like I'm seeing or hearing about the baton passed from the Germans to the Greeks. You know, my own
Yeah.
family history, and it's really cool. Really cool.
Glenn, you opened my eyes too, because I never knew until you told me that the German immigrants are the nationality that told the other nationalities how to cook.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That was all a revelation when you first told
Yeah.
me about that.
And
So it's been very educational and informative for myself as well.
because the cooking style that was done in these diners that the Greeks were doing was not traditional Greek food at all. I mean, pot roast, Yankee pot roast, roast beef, roast, turkey, even the omelets. That's not Greek cooking at
No.
all. It's not Greek cuisine. Who taught them that? And because usually in other ethnicities, when they come here, they open a restaurant and Afghan food, Italian food, whatever, and they're of that ethnicity. Greeks are the only ones that I could think of that came and cooked someone else's food.
Yeah, that's true.
And who taught them that? In that Western European cooking? The Germans.
Yeah, no, totally,
And it's really cool.
totally.
It's really cool.
It is cool. That's
That's
awesome.
It was only later in like the 70s
It's
and
awesome.
80s
Yeah.
when they incorporated moussaka, certain Greek dishes. But
Yeah.
the menu still is basically a Northwestern European
Yeah, it's
cuisine
totally,
coming from the German. That's really cool.
yeah, that's diner culinary history.
Absolutely. Diner picking.
Yeah, yeah. And for those that don't know, diner picking is when you get pictures from an old diner and
Yeah.
you pull someone in, they tell a story. Because these are what diners are, living entities that still are relevant today.
Yes. Yes.
You can still come to a diner and talk.
Yes.
And that's why we do all our podcasts at a diner.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
You want to wrap it up? Okay. Until
Nice.
next time,
Nice.
Disco Fries for all.
We're out.